Hello class, welcome back to another review before you take your 8.3 quiz. Today we're going to look at the review sheet and go over 3 problems. We're going to start with number 2. When we look here at number 2, we see a lot of x's on top and a lot of x's on bottom. Remember that x to the 5th means that there are 5 x's here. X to the 4th means there are 1, 2, 3, 4 x's here. Those will be easy to eliminate. But before we do that, let's break up some of these bigger numbers like 48 and 16 and 25. We're going to break them up by numbers that multiply to make them. That might be similar to the numbers on top. So when I look at 48 first, I know it's divisible by 8. I know that 16 is also divisible by 8, so I'm going to guess that 16 goes into 48. So I double check on my calculator and I find out that 16 times 3 is 48. I also know right off the top of my head that 25 is made up of 5 times 5, and 15 has a 5 in it because it ends in a 5, and that's 3 times 5. So I will be able to eliminate those first. So I'm going to cross off the 16 on the bottom and the 16 on top. This leaves me with a negative 1x here. I'm going to cross off the 5 over here with a 5 here. I'm going to cross these off so I don't forget that they've been eliminated. I don't want to confuse myself. And I see a 3 here and a negative 3 here, so I'm left with a negative 1. I'm going to rewrite this mess so that I can see what else is left. I see I have negative 1x to the 5th, so I'm going to bring over that group over here so I have space to work. Negative 1x and x to the 4th. Oh, good thing I'm rewriting this. I found something else I can eliminate. I have a 5 here and a 5 there. I'm going to bring down a big fraction bar, and then I'm going to rewrite this as 3x squared and x squared, and I'm going to put my multiplication in here, and that's x to the 3rd is left. Now let's eliminate the x's. I can do this one of 2 ways. I can combine all the x's on top and get 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10x squared and 2, 4, 7 on the bottom, and a negative 1 over 3. But I know that these 2 negatives also cancel out because a negative times a negative is a positive. And so I could make this all one fraction. 1/3 x to the 10th, 3 x to the 7th. Before I go on, I'm going to show you another way you could do it. You could eliminate x's here like this. I know there's 2 x's, 4 x's. So this eliminates. I know there's 3 x's and 5 minus 3 is 2. So you're left with 2 x's and 1 more x is 3 x's on top. Watch when I reduce it this way. I do 10 minus 7. The x's always go where there are more x's. 10 minus 7 is 3, so I'm still left with 1/3 x to the 3rd. I have 1 times x to the 3rd over 3. And I'm going to circle my work with a heart to set my work apart. Moving on to number 5, I have x squared plus 6x. And I'm going to look for the GCF in these. And then I'm going to factor or FOIL out pieces so that I can reduce. Do you see here that I have an x squared and a 6x? I can find the GCF, or I can pull out an x squared out front. So let's do that first. I'm going to rewrite that as x times, in parentheses, x plus 6. Now down here you notice that we have no middle term, so that we're going to probably have a number here that multiplies by itself to make 36. Do you remember what that is? Yep, that's 6 and 6. Since there's no middle term, one of the 6's has got to be a plus and one of them's got to be a minus. Now let's rewrite this so that we can find it easier to work with. Now you noticed I've left some space because 4 is an even number and 10 is an even number. If I break these up, if I break 10 up into 5 times 2 and 4 up into 2 times 2, I have more that I can eliminate. Right away I can get rid of the 2 here and a 2 here. And what else is common that I could get rid of? There's an x plus 6 and an x minus 6. Those aren't the same, but there is another x plus 6 on the bottom, so I cross those off. Now this x is not attached in a parenthesis to a 6, so that has to stay. And 5 and 2 can't reduce anymore, so we're going to rewrite it one more time. Notice that on the top I'm left with 2x, so I write it here, and on the bottom I'm left with a 5 and an x minus 6, so I can write it that way. Or I've written it as 2x, x times 5 minus 3, and the minus 6. Either way, that could be correct. They mean the same thing. We will look at as number 8. Notice this time we're not multiplying, but we're dividing. When we divide, we are going to take the back fraction and flip it, because the inverse of division is multiplication. If we flip it, then we can multiply straight across. So I'm going to take the 5x plus 25 and move it to the top, and the x, move it to the bottom. I'm going to change this to a multiplication dot and scratch this out so I'm not confused. The next step is I want to factor out and simplify these terms so that I can easily eliminate things. When we look here at the top, we see a minus and a minus, so we want to ask ourselves, what multiplies to make negative 2 but adds to make negative 1? Well, there was only one option, and that's a 2 and a 1. And 2 and a 1 make a negative 1, but since this is negative, the 2's got to be the minus. So let's rewrite that. So we're going to rewrite the top here as x minus 2, x plus 1. Now let's do the same thing to the bottom. This time I ask myself, what multiplies to make negative 5, but adds to make a positive 4? It's 5 and 1 again. It's since the 5 is negative, but the 4 is positive, the bigger number has to be positive. So 5 is positive, which makes the 1 negative, so we're going to rewrite it down here. When I rewrite it, I've got x plus 5, x minus 1. Now let's go over here. Do you see a GCF? Is there a number that goes into both 5 and 25? Yep, we did that on our last problem on the other page. 5 does. So when I pull the 5 out, I'm left with an x here, and 25 divided by 5 is 5, so I can rewrite that as 5 in parentheses x plus 5. What's on the bottom just comes with it. Now, do you see anything we can eliminate? Yes, that's right. We have an x plus 5 and an x plus 5, an x minus 2 and an x minus 2. Can these two eliminate? No, they're not exactly the same. So we're going to bring them with the 5 down here. So I have the x plus 1 and the x minus 1. And then I also have the 5 here. I don't think it cancels anywhere else. This might be different than what the answer key said. So please let me know in the comments if I'm missing something. But I believe that 5 also comes down with it. I don't see where else it would come out. So I'm going to circle this with a big heart to set my work apart. Remember to input your score from the packet as well as to take the quiz. Good luck and have a good day.